Hello, all, and welcome to the Movie Bears podcast. I'm Brad Harris, and each week I'm joined by hunky, hairy, huggable homos who love film to discuss movies and dish a little bit of Hollywood slash studio slash silver screen news. I thought I could throw in a couple more slashes, but it was a long work day. My brain is failing me. Sorry. Anyway, with me as usual are my cohorts in crime. The dastardly Jim Pugliafico.
Hello, everybody.
Whoa, what's going on? Oh no! Could you guys hear that?
I hear it.
I do hear. I'm Brad Harris in the background.
Yeah, alright, we're going to restart that. All right. What happened is somehow the link was up in the background and it started on time delay.
Oh, how fun. Or
Yeah.
maybe not fun.
I know. So those of you who are watching live, you're going to get the intro twice.
Ooh, maybe we'll be better the second time. Maybe we'll be worse. Let's see.
Maybe. I do it off the cuff, guys, so I don't know. It may not be as good. The magic may be lost.
Magic is gone.
Magic's gone.
The magic is gone.
There's only one chance at magic.
Actually, let me crack open my blood orange mics. All right, we'll try it again. In 3, 2, 1. Hello, all. I'm Brad Harris, and welcome to the Movie Bears podcast, where each week I'm joined by hairy, hunky, huggable homos who love film to discuss movies and dish a little bit of movie magic, amazing, celebrity awesomeness news. And I already recorded this intro once, but then I totally fucked it up because Google Plus is weird. So this is the second time you're getting this intro.
Hope you're liking it better.
Unless they're listening to the audio version, and this is the first time, they're like, "Well, where's the other?"
I was just gonna say, it may make it into the broadcast as a stinger. You never know.
Or I may just take bits and pieces of both and make a Frankenstein.
Ooh.
Oh my God, we have the technology.
That's what we'll do each week. Let's just record the show twice. Jim can just edit together into like the best of all conversations, right?
Nice. Yeah, that would be awesome. Totes my goats. Well, we have a fun show this week. We are going to be talking about Minions, a movie I was really excited about. I know you guys maybe weren't as excited, so we'll see how our opinions come down on that film. But holy crap, we had a lot of news hit this weekend. So we're just going to dive right in. I'm not even going to ask your guys' permission. I'm not going to gain agreement with you guys because we're just doing it. So bear the fuck down. Here we go. Movie news. So Will Lindis, you are the most comic inclined of the three of us, I would say. Why don't you tell us why the F people should care about Comic-Con and why the F we're talking about it?
Yeah, so San Diego Comic-Con is a big deal, and not just for those of us who are comic book reading nerds, as I am, but over the years, San Diego Comic-Con has slowly morphed into this mecca of all things like sci-fi, fantasy, pop culture. If it's a television show, if it's a movie, if it's a comic book, because yes, they still do those there at Comic-Con. If it's a cartoon show, it's probably got a panel or a reveal or a booth or something at San Diego Comic-Con. This is a place where you've got hundreds of thousands of fans, members of the media, gaming, television, comic communities, all converging in one place just so that we can all masturbate over the exact same teasers, trailers, clips, new projects, whatever it is that comes out. And boy, have we got a few that came out. In fact, I don't know about you guys. I was a little bit away from my technology over the weekend. I was visiting family. I was just not really paying attention to things. So I kept looking on social media kind of in between activities, and there would be a new reveal. Like, okay, I need to watch that trailer. I need to see that reveal from that panel. And it was a lot. It was almost too much to take in at times. I don't know if you guys experienced the same.
Yeah,
yeah.
We were kind of busy this weekend. We had out-of-town guests. We were hosting out-of-town guests, actually 4 people.
Sets of out-of-town, yeah.
Sets of out-of-town guests simultaneously. Had a bear organization meeting and a pool party, and did a double feature movie on Sunday. So we were like super busy, and so every once in a while I would kind of open up the Twitters and see what was going on, because I knew there was a Star Wars panel, and that probably was pretty much the only thing there that I was semi-interested in. You know me, I've said it before, I'm not super in tune with what's going on in the comics or the comic movies, but Star Wars I'm mildly interested in. I don't consider myself even a Star Wars nerd, really, but
why you gotta throw nerd in there, Jim?
Well, you know.
Why's it got to be a nerd thing?
Are you a self-loathing like nerdophobe?
I am. Yeah, I'm a nerdophobe.
Tossing some nerd shade.
Yeah,
Is that what we're doing?
Are you like jock acting? Like, is that your thing? Like,
hey, check your privilege, Jim.
I'm not nerd acting. I'm just saying.
All
right. But yeah, I mean, so I saw that there was a couple of things dropped, and we're going to try to cover some of those. But Will, what did you see? What hit your fancy this weekend?
Oh yeah, so
out of San Diego.
There are a few things, and I'll start off by saying, like, whereas I am a big comic book fan, I love a lot of these things. I'm usually not as excited as the average person about the different film trailers that come out, because I'm usually the type that I'll watch the trailer when it's closer to the time the film comes out or something along those lines. Not because I'm worried about spoilers or whatever, although that is a concern, a legitimate concern for some people. For me, it's like, in most cases, I don't want to get excited like 18 months in advance of a film and then just kind of have to edge on that for the next year and a half.
You said edge.
I did edge on that. Maybe I did say that. Maybe it's a little bit of a carryover from last week's episode. I don't know.
He's still edging from last week.
Oh man, it has been a hell of a week.
I know.
But yeah, so usually these trailers don't do a whole lot for me. But I did get a chance to check out a few of them. There were some that really surprised me in how interesting they made the property look. A few that maybe didn't do as much as I would have liked them to. The first one I want to talk about is the new trailer that has come out for the new Fox feature, X-Men: Age of Apocalypse, which is the next film in the X-Men series. The Bryan Singer franchise that we saw with the original 3 X-Men films, some Wolverine spin-offs, X-Men First Class, Days of Future Past. Holy crap, I just realized I think we're now on the 7th X-Men movie?
Maybe.
Yeah, the 2 Wolverine spin-offs?
I've lost track. I don't even know where we are in the timeline anymore. Like, I'm so confused. Like, awesome trailer, but holy hell, I'm confused.
And I think that's kind of the point here. Like, the idea behind Age of Apocalypse, comic book wise, is it's like an alternate timeline. And I don't know how much of that we're going to play with here, but it does certainly look like this is earlier in the X-Men storyline. We get to see the thing that excited me most about it, and I'm going to try not to spoil too much about it, but Storm, young Storm, is in this one in her classic Mohawk look. A look that I think is freaking amazing. I'm really excited to see that, especially considering as much as I love the character, I did not enjoy seeing Halle Berry in that role. So I was excited to see that. I was excited to see some of the different characters that did pop up. That said, I don't know if I got enough out of this to be really excited about the film just based on the trailer. I saw some cool characters, and that's a lot. As a nerd, that's a lot for me. But the trailer itself, I don't think blew me away. But Brad, how did you feel about this one?
I thought it was a great trailer, actually, and I'm surprised to hear you say that. We're going to take away your Marvel badge. Jesus, Will.
No. I keep my Marvel badge. I want more. I want the best. I want the best for Marvel.
I thought it was really interesting. Like, there's so much to like pick up and pull apart with this trailer. I feel like we could spend like the whole, Comic-Con segment talking about that. I mean, you talked about, Storm and her classic Mohawk, which I love. We got to see, James McAvoy, head shaved, taking on the classic Charles Xavier look. I saw this online today, so I can't totally take credit for it. I do have to say that Apocalypse totally looks like that purple villain from the Power Rangers movie.
Oh my god. Yeah.
So that was a little weird for me, but the rest I thought was pretty freaking cool. But I am really confused about, I guess alternate timeline, whatever. I suppose it's going to set it up and it's going to make sense. But I'm excited. I really, really like Days of Future Past. I want to see where things go. I'm guessing we're not getting old Magneto in this movie at all, right? I think just
I don't remember seeing him in the trailer, and I could be wrong. There were a lot of characters that kind of flew in front of us in the trailer, and I'm sure if he was returning, we would see it.
I would think so, yeah. So that's unfortunate, but otherwise, yeah, I'm stoked.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I would have liked to have seen a little different on it is just I was excited to see just the parade of characters, but I wanted to see a little bit more of like, hey, well, what's the story going to be about?
What's the premise?
What's the premise? Yeah, that's the one thing I was kind of missing from it. And again, we're far enough out that there's probably going to be another trailer that comes out a little bit closer that has set some of those things up. So that's what I'm kind of holding out hope for.
Yeah.
When's the release for that?
I should have researched that before this episode,
sorry.
right?
I didn't mean to ask to quiz you. I was wondering how far out that one is. Is it next summer? Next summer,
it's
maybe?
a 2016 release. May 2016.
May of next year. Yeah.
Spring next year. Okay.
The apocalypse is coming, gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. So good stuff. Yeah, I'm excited too, Will. Hopefully it's a good film. I don't think Bryan Singer's going to let us down, hopefully.
Fingers crossed, man, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Glad to see Quicksilver back. Jim, I don't know if you really saw the trailer, but Quicksilver
I didn't get to see this one at all yet, and I will see it. I just, like I said, it's been busy, and I didn't get to catch up with everything.
There were only 12 million things coming out of Comic-Con.
Well, there were several big ones, and I'm just, what can I say?
I'm not haranguing you. I'm saying it's understandable. All the news that came out.
I feel I'm letting our comic book film audience down so they could hear my non-comic book fan, I guess my Philistine reaction to the trailer.
Well, here, I've got this. How does this make you feel? Because I know maybe not even seeing the trailer. One of the things that does excite me about this movie, even outside of the trailer, is just knowing the cast itself is solid. Sophie Turner, who plays Sansa on Game of Thrones, is Jean Grey here.
Gonna throw Apocalypse out the window.
We have Oscar Isaac, who is one of those dudes, in Inside Llewyn Davis, Ex Machina. Like, this guy is just on fire right now.
Star Wars.
He is playing the big bad of this Apocalypse. We've got Ty Sheridan as Scott Summers. Cody Smith-McPhee is Kurt Wagner, the Nightcrawler, and Olivia Munn as Psylocke. And there's a really cool. I guess it's like an Instagram video she did of her training, like doing her sword training. They released that about a week ago, and it was cool to watch like this actress actually like going through the ropes of like learning how to use the sword. And that more so than this trailer, watching Olivia Munn just swing around that sword gave me a huge nerd boner for this movie.
Swing.
Yeah. Oh, dude, wow. So did we just do like a Wayne's World reference on our San Diego Comic-Con?
Party time, excellent.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're keeping things really timely on the Movie Bears podcast.
Aren't we? We're evergreen.
Hey, that's what happens when you invite old dudes on. That's what happens. Sorry.
I'm going to toss a Max Headroom reference into Brad's next news topic.
Oh, goodness, you guys. Oh, goodness.
So, no. Will, as you were announcing the cast for this, I mean, I recognize a lot of those actors' names, but are they doing like a complete reset on the cast for X-Men? Is this going to be like a reboot of how are they going to fold these new faces in to the old characters?
In some ways, kind of a reboot, kind of not, because this is set earlier in the timeline. So this is like, when what's his name, James McAvoy, young Charles Xavier starts the school with a younger squad. Remember when we watched the first X-Men movies that had James Marsden and Halle Berry? They're adults. They're teaching at the school.
Right.
Xavier is old at this point. So this is earlier in the timeline. I don't know how it's going to catch up. I don't know what it's going to look like. 2 films from now when they have to like continue moving the timeline forward. I don't know if they're going to continue moving the timeline forward. Yeah, that's going to be the big question.
Wait, That old Xavier doesn't match this old Xavier, so I'm not so sure.
Right.
Yeah.
They are fucking around with time pretty hardcore, and
I know.
that has consequences. But at the same time, Days of Future Past could have been a complete train wreck with all of the time jumping and all that stuff. It wasn't, so I trust them to move forward with this.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Guys, we have a live comment from Curtis and Doobie from Tulsa, Oklahoma, who say hello. Hi. They are watching our show.
Hey!
Curtis and Doob.
Hey, guys.
Oh, yay! Hey, guys.
Good to have you. Welcome aboard. Well, let's see. What have I got this week? My Comic-Con nerd boner comes from some of the Batman/Superman related items. Last week, my news item was all about the Ben Affleck interview in Entertainment Weekly. I think you guys are probably aware we got a new Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice trailer coming out of Comic-Con.
BVS DOJ.
It sounds like some sort of weird like fetish acronym.
It's an underwear. It's an underwear. BVS
Is that what it
DOJ. Yeah.
I wonder what this fetish is.
BBW Dawn of Justice. Like, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, it's dirty, and it will get you banned if you look it up at the public library. That's all I know.
That's pretty true. It's probably like a hashtag on Tumblr or something. You know what I mean? Like, totally. I used my first Tumblr hashtag recently, but anyway, the power of the hashtag compels you. Anyway, so the new trailer for Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. I got to tell you, I wish they had led with this. Honestly. I thought it was amazing. It got me super pumped for this movie. You guys know my beefs with Man of Steel. I talked about it last week too. But this trailer totally has me psyched. Some of the CGI looks a little wonky, and that's unfortunate. I hope they clean it up before we get the final product. Looks a little fakey fake. But I think overall, it really sells sort of the setup of this film in a way that sort of brings people on. Like, we get this POV shot of like Bruce Wayne looking up at the building that Zod and Superman are inside of at the end, like heat vision going everywhere, everything falling apart. And we see Bruce Wayne like running into the dust storm, like to save this little girl or something whose parents probably died. You know what I mean? And we just see him like looking up. Jim, you mentioned earlier he looked like George Clooney in that shot. You were kind of right.
He
totally did.
For a second there, he looked totally like George Clooney.
He was totally like channeling ER, like, next week on a special episode of ER. You know what I mean?
Hopefully he doesn't channel George Clooney Batman.
Well, that's what I mean.
I know.
George Clooney played Batman. So
yeah, absolutely. So, he's like staring at the sky like, Superman, I will kill you. Except Batman doesn't kill, but in Zack Snyder movies, maybe he does. Who knows? But they're
if
definitely...
Superman can, why not Batman?
I know. But they're definitely taking the Dark Knight Returns storyline. I think it's going to be great. They even recreated like one of the covers, a very iconic shot in the trailer. I was super stoked to see that. A lot of great stuff in this film. We got Wonder Woman doing her Wonder Woman thing. We got to see her just in her normal, normalness, dancing with Bruce Wayne, and then she's all like angry lesbian.
She's got the dark Wonder Woman suit on.
Totally. Lasso of Truth, where's that? I don't know. Probably hanging with the Invisible Jet somewhere.
And the shark repellent, the bat shark repellent.
The bat shark repellent, yeah. Actually, I think Batman loaned that to whoever's swimming down to find Aquaman, actually.
Makes sense.
They better bust that shit out in one of these movies, I gotta say right now.
Yeah.
They will never do that. They got in so much, like...
Do it!
The internet is still pissed off over like the Bat credit card from the George Clooney Batman. Like, it got so fucking cheesy, which is side rant, fine by me because Batman's allowed to be cheesy sometime, but not in this new Zack Snyder world. New DC doesn't want comedy.
Da-na-na-na-na.
We had internet for George Clooney's Batman.
Yeah.
Internet was
bulletin board or something.
But it's, I mean, it is still around now. Like it is still very high profile. That sequence.
The Joker was totally trolling Batman on a Yahoo group back then.
Yeah, that's exactly how it worked.
Totally. Hey, we have another live comment from Felipe, one of our good movie buddies
Felipe's on.
here in Tucson, who says that wasn't just any building; it was a Wayne Corp building.
Yes,
Wayne
it was.
Financial. Wayne Financial, if we're being precise.
So he wasn't mad at that. The girl's parents or whatever got killed. He was mad because his shit got wrecked.
Well, yeah, of course.
Can it be both?
Yeah. Little from column A, little from column B.
And in case you couldn't tell it was a Wayne building, there was a big giant crest sitting next to the fist shaking Ben Affleck in that shot.
George Affleck, Ben
George
Clooney.
Affleck.
Yeah. Totally. What else did we have? Jesse Eisenberg, Lex Luthor, long hair. Right? We know he goes bald at some point because I remember seeing a promotional image of that. But kind of interesting.
You don't know if that made the movie or not, though, right?
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, lots of interesting stuff. What did you guys think of this trailer?
I liked it. I got re-energized for the movie. Felipe, actually, today, I had heard from him because I asked him what he thought of it. And I think he's still a little bit guardedly optimistic. But so here's my beef with the movie. A lot was made about Superman's actions. Brad, I know you have issue with it. Everybody I talk to kind of falls on one side of the fence or the other. About Superman's actions from Man of Steel and the fallout from that activity, right, from that damage. And I was kind of hoping that this next movie wasn't going to be, we're just going to punish Superman this whole movie for the shit that he did at the end of the last movie. To me, that was kind of a dumb way to go, and I was hoping that wasn't going to be it. And this movie seems to have the first trailer seemed to be all about that. And then this trailer was a little bit less that and more about, hey, here are two guys that are flawed heroes. It seems like both of them have their issues. And the movie seems to want to explore how those two flawed heroes are going to coexist on Earth in this world and the things that they both are going through. And so I guess, depending on how that's handled, I think that could be really compelling. I just thought it was going to be, Superman, everyone thinks Superman's a dick, so we're going to get Batman, and he's going to say, he's going to take care of Superman, and that's going to be this movie. I'm glad it's not that didactic, and it looks more complex, and I think I'm going to like it. Does that make any sense to you guys?
It does. And I'm in a similar boat. I'm still guarded about the whole thing. I'm not worried. That's not the right word. I'm curious as to what the tone is going to actually be in the finished product, because both of the trailers that we've seen have been a bit divergent in the way that they've portrayed the tone. So now I just need to see what's actually going to show up in the finished product. In some ways, it's kind of like, come on, Warner Brothers, come on, DC, market your stuff a little bit better, because that first trailer was an absolute travesty to me. Like it killed my any excitement I may have had for this movie, and I think it did so for a lot of people. This more recent trailer is a lot better. I'm starting to see a little bit more of what the story is going to look like, getting to see what looks to be the central conflict, and it's not just Batman pissed off at Superman. It's Superman's journey is kind of twofold here. He's dealing with the consequences of what happened in the last film, and whether it was his fault, whether it wasn't, the lives that were lost, but also the fact that he's a god amongst men. Like, he is very much separate from the average human being. And so you have people who worship him. You have people that want to tear him down. That is a great place for me to explore Superman as a character. Because the most compelling Superman stories for me are always the ones where he kind of rises above his alien nature to become more human than human. Those are the most interesting stories for me. So we get to see some of that here. Affleck looks great as Batman. He looks great as Bruce Wayne. I think he is a stellar cast. So yeah. I need to see what the finished product looks like. And while that's true for a lot of films based on the trailer, with us having seen kind of two very different trailers so far, this is especially true here. But I would say my optimism is rising, and that's huge.
Yep, absolutely agree with you. So at this point, I think a lot of my fears have been allayed a little bit. I'm excited to see where things go. Hopefully the trailer didn't give us all the good stuff in one dollop, though. That's my fear. But
I think
we'll see.
I think Affleck. I didn't have worries from the beginning about Affleck being Batman. I know a lot was said about it, and there were a lot of doubts in the comic community, or comic movie community, about him playing Batman, and I'm not exactly sure what that was based on, because we know that Affleck can act. I mean, everyone has their movies where they don't do so well. You know, every actor has those movies, but we've seen Affleck, act the fuck out of roles, and I think I didn't have that doubt, and after seeing this trailer, I'm like, I'm sold. I don't know about the glowing eye. That has nothing to do with Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
I don't know about those glowing eyes. I'm still not comfortable with that because it's not a characteristic of Batman that I ever grew up with. I don't know when this came about or how or why it came about, but it's a little. It seems more alien than human, and I kind of have a problem with that because Batman is human.
Well, but it's going to make for an awesome action figure. Like you push the button, Batman's eyes light up. Like
sponsored by Duracell.
Yeah, or sponsored by Mattel. Yeah, I think the reason for Ben Affleck, and I'm right there with you, Jim. When I first heard the announcement, I was all about this. I was all about Affleck because we have seen him in roles where he can act, where he's solid. But it wasn't just the comic book community. It was actually just, so Batman is one of those characters who you don't have to be like a super big comic book fan to really enjoy. Like, he is, of the different comic book characters, he's probably the one that's crossed over into the mainstream the most, if not, Superman in the conversation, maybe Spider-Man in the conversation as well. And so you've got a lot of people who maybe their only exposure to Batman was the movies, or who have read the comics or whatever.
Right.
And their exposure to Ben Affleck, we saw Argo. We've seen some of these films where our stock in Affleck has risen. But yeah, the average film goer probably didn't see those films. Maybe Gone Girl. But they probably didn't see those films. So when I heard people talking about it, what I heard was people saying, "Oh, Ben Affleck? You mean like the guy from like Geely and Daredevil is going to be Batman?" It's like, yeah, those were roles he played a decade ago. So there's some people who's like they haven't hit the refresh on the browser in their brain to like see the most recent like Ben Affleck IMDb films. So yeah, that's what it is. People have weird memories on things like that, and I'm hoping that this proves a lot of them wrong, kind of the same way the Heath Ledger Dark Knight cast did as well.
Well, people better get used to it because there's also a standalone Batman movie coming in 2018, written and directed and starring Ben Affleck. Well, no, he's directing and starring. He's co-writing. He's co-writing it with Jeff Johns, right?
Jeez.
So he's pulling like triple duty in this movie. It is clearly a labor of love, so to speak.
And even though he is getting paid millions, I'm sure.
I know. And I was reading that it was part of the original contract that he signed to come on to Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Now, that's on the internet. Who the hell knows if that's really true or not? But I don't know.
I think that was Variety that reported that. So it's just
but Variety is not what it once was. They're not reputable anymore.
Oh,
I'm joking. That's you can laugh. Wow. You can laugh.
I was like, I don't know what to say about that, Brad.
What were you gonna say, Jim?
I said, forget ever getting a Variety writer on guessing the show.
Yeah. So like they were emailing us. They were about to hit send. They're like, fuck those guys.
Hey, Variety writers understand the value of sarcasm and wit. Okay,
yes,
they won't be offended. They will laugh in delight.
Okay.
Oh my. But yeah, I'm excited about this because I didn't like the last Batman movie. I thought that Christopher Nolan kind of went off the rails with it. I'm very happy to see this character under a...
Watch out, Will.
Yeah,
Watch out, the Nolanites are out there.
I enjoy Christopher Nolan as a filmmaker, but he is not flawless. He works best when he is limited by budget or other constraints. But when he has carte blanche, he throws everything in, and whether or not it needs to be there. And I'll gladly stand up to that statement. But Ben Affleck is a director who we've seen do some quite good work. I'm very interested in seeing what he will do with this character, what he will do with this franchise, and again, a lot of it's going to be under DC Warner Brothers thumbs. Whenever you're writing for a studio, there's only so much you can do. But yeah, bring it on. I as much as excited as I am for Dawn of Justice, hearing that news about the Ben Affleck directed Batman film in 2018, that was the Batman news that had me the kind of jazzed up the most.
I'm interested to find out if they're going to be prequel movies or if they're going to be like after Batman v Superman. I'm not sure what sandbox they're going to be playing in yet, especially considering some bits of other news I want to discuss if we have time later. But Jim, what tripped your trigger?
Well, I mentioned it earlier. Should we shift gears and talk about probably what was considered the primary panel at this year's San Diego Comic-Con, and that's Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You guys excited for that?
Oh,
I hate Star Wars.
Well, I got some news that about that, and this year we heard that Marvel wasn't going to be a major exhibitor, I guess, at San Diego Comic-Con. And have a big panel and a big show, so it was known that it would be wide open for Star Wars, of course, to roll out their big deal for this year. And it's with their movie coming up, the release of the movie coming up in December. That's not to say that Star Warsy stuff wouldn't have been big news anyway at this Comic-Con, but I don't know if any con is big enough for a giant Marvel panel and a giant Star Wars panel in the same year. But the Star Wars folks definitely had the spotlight this year, and by the sounds of it, I guess they trotted out a huge show. We did not have a new trailer though for the Star Wars: The Force Awakens panel this year for the movie. I guess they're saying that. There will be a trailer, I guess, in the fall coming out. Another trailer in the fall, in advance of the movie, and that I don't know how many more will come out, but anyway, they had a kind of a behind-the-scenes featurette, I guess you could call it, about 3.5 minutes worth of behind-the-scenes stuff. You get to see some of the cast doing their thing. Some of the characters and a little bit of on-set action, but nothing really that gave you any idea of what the plot of the movie's going to be. So, did you guys see this?
Oh fuck yeah!
Yep.
Yeah. You guys turned on by this? Yeah.
I may or may not still have an erection from that.
Nice.
If your Star Wars erection lasts more than 4 months, please consult a doctor immediately.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that they would roll that out. It's an interesting thought to say, if they wouldn't have a trailer, they would just have these kind of behind-the-scenes little teaser behind-the-scenes reels. How that would be. Yeah, I mean. We know that the Star Trek Fan Alliance is probably dissecting every shot frame by frame right now to try to figure out what's really going on, and I expect there to be every day something popping out on the internet of like the 100 things we learned from the 3.5-minute behind-the-scenes Star Wars: The Force Awakens, reel, and I'm sure that'll happen. But they also
is that one of those like pages where you have to click the button to read each one?
So if you want to get through all of them, you have to do 100 clicks, basically. Yeah.
Get that ad revenue, guys. Get it.
Yeah, they're all out there right now putting that together. You'll see it start popping up tomorrow. Well, I think I saw one today, like the top 6 things we learned from the Star Wars Comic-Con panel. But they trotted out a lot of the talent, the acting talent. They had a good guy panel with Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, and Oscar Isaac. I couldn't tell you who they were all playing. I think John Boyega might be some kind of star. What do you call it? Stormtrooper, soldier.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And Daisy Ridley, I think, might have a bigger part. She might be, I don't know, related to somebody big from the other movies. I have no idea. What did I say? Star Trek? Really?
You said Star Trek. Felipe just pointed it out.
Yeah.
Oh, damn it! All right.
The Star
doing
Trek
my best.
fans would pick it apart and
Doing
dissect.
my best. I'm doing my best. You may not.
But
I don't know.
aside from that, you were on a roll, so I didn't want to jump.
Okay. No. Please do. Please correct me. They also had a bad guy panel, and that had Adam Driver as a character called Kylo Ren. Gwendolyn Christie we know from Game of Thrones.
Bum, bum, ba-da-da-da.
Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones, of course.
Excuse me, Brienne of fucking Tarth.
Brienne of fucking Tarth, right. And she plays some character called Captain Phasma? I don't know, something like that. Captain Phasma. And do you guys read the comics? Do you know any of these fucking characters? Because I don't.
I don't read the expanded universe.
Yeah.
No.
And then Domhnall Gleeson, who we saw in Ex Machina early this year. A really great up-and-coming actor. As General Hux, the base leader of the villain element called the First Order. So I guess, and this is a minor spoiler maybe, that the First Order is a kind of taking the place of the Empire in these movies. Since we fucked up the Empire in the last movie, didn't we?
Yeah. Fucked him up. Fucked him hard. Fucked him raw.
Really, yeah.
And then they trotted out the old people, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford, from the existing movies, who probably all have some role, I think, in the new movie, as cameos or whatever. And then I guess after the panel, they had this huge. They basically did something that they've never really done at Comic-Con before. They basically, at the end of the panel, J.J. Abrams said, "Hey, how would you all like to go to a free Star Wars concert down the street?" And I guess the stormtroopers lined up at the exits and basically escorted everybody down. They said about a half mile to this outdoor venue, where they had this concert. Star Wars music and this cool fireworks show. I don't know if you guys have seen it on YouTube, but it's been kind of coordinated to the music, and a big to-do they had for Star Wars: The Force Awakens. So, what did you guys think?
One of the interesting things about it was the news about the line.
Oh yeah.
Apparently, the people lined up, and Hometown Pride. The first two people in line were apparently two people from Austin, and they got there. I want to say it was something like a day and a half before the panel opened, and claimed their spot. It was like, it's ridiculous. Like I can't imagine doing that. Like, if I'm standing in line for like 10 minutes at the grocery store because like something is too long, I'm stomping, I'm spitting, I'm looking at my phone. Like,
okay, Will, it's your job to find out who these people were and go talk to them.
It's not they had like an Instagram photo where they like wrote their names, like, this is where we claimed our spot at the beginning of the Star Wars panel. Like they did it in chalk on the ground because they're really proud of their spot. So I can find that fairly easily, but I probably won't because I'll be looking up Star Wars things on the internet instead, like cool videos and such as these ones from Comic-Con. Yeah, the thing that really blew me away was that behind-the-scenes featurette you mentioned. I've mentioned several times on the show just how excited I am for Star Wars. Even before I mentioned, like, I'm not super big into like trailers. Like, it doesn't really do a whole lot for me. But the second Star Wars trailer, holy crap! Like, I still watch that and I still messed up. I still get that kind of like that surge of youth. Like, I need to see this movie. And so that behind-the-scenes featurette, what it did for me was I got to see a lot of the actors, many of whom I already appreciate and respect. So it was nice seeing them talk about their love for the franchise and how cool it was to be there. But even more so, I was just enamored by the practical effects that they showed in that.
Yes, absolutely.
There were so many of them. They looked so freaking cool. Normally when I watch like a behind the scenes featurette for a movie like this, it's just like everybody in green outfits in green screen, and they'll just fix it in post. They'll CGI over it later. But I mean, they were actually out in the sand. There were actual explosions happening, not computer-generated ones put in. It looks really awesome. That featurette did a lot to get me even more excited for this film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. Gosh, I'm so tired, guys. As much as I love Star Wars, I'm having trouble concentrating. Maybe it's the booze. I don't know. I agree with you, Will. I think the level of practical effects in this movie already have me super excited. One of my big beefs with the prequel trilogy was just how everything was CGI. Like, everything. Even, like, Ben Kenobi's fucking robe was CGI sometimes. And it just drives me crazy, because you can see that stuff. You can tell when it's a digital background. It wasn't as bad as the digital backgrounds on Once Upon a Time. Yes, I just burned Once Upon a Time. Get over it, gays. But, you know... It definitely, you know, you could tell it was not filmed on like a set with real things, and Will is dying apparently.
I love like what's cracking me up about that is you're like, fuck you, Disney property. I like Disney property better because Disney owns everything.
That's pretty much true. It's like running across the street because Starbucks prices are too high, and you run to like another Starbucks.
Yeah,
you know. Actually, that analogy sucks. I told you I'm tired, but I get your point. I promise.
Fair enough. Jim's gonna put a better analogy in place of that one in post. Like, you know, when he edits this one together, it's just gonna be like, you know, him going like, it's almost like just kind of sync to your lips. It'd be great.
That would be awesome. That would be totally great. Anyway, I'm pumped. I'm a little bummed that we don't have a new trailer. But then again, we've already had like 2 trailers. Well, no, we had a teaser and a trailer. Right? Or
teaser and then
a full-on trailer.
Yeah.
Now, aren't there usually 3 trailers, or is it 1 teaser and 2 trailers?
I think this makes sense, like because they said there's going to be 1 more in the fall, right?
Right. So we should, when all is said and done, have a teaser and 2 trailers, and I think that's enough. I don't think we need so many trailers. I don't want to see everything in the movie. You know what I mean? Before we get there. I think they're being very wise about how much they dole out. Even in this behind-the-scenes featurette, we saw some really cool shit. But did they really give anything away?
No, nothing that felt like spoilery to me.
Not at all. Not at all. Just enough to make you go, holy fucking crap, this is super cool. I can't wait for it to come out. And not enough for you to be like, well, no reason to see the movie anymore. So.
But if there is anything even remotely spoilery in there, you can bet that some of these websites are going to latch onto it and paste it all over their site, you know, like, oh, in the background of this shot there was a blah 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 blah. That means that so and so, you know, takes over the galaxy or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, conspiracy theorists, you know, they'll do their thing regardless. But Anyway, that was probably the biggest thing, arguably the biggest thing coming out of the con this year. Pretty awesome stuff. Let's just do this real quick. Just a couple other really fast things before we get into our Minions review. Will, I think you had one more thing you wanted to talk about. Is that right?
And it'll be fairly quick because I think this one's kind of developing news more than anything. We also got to see a Deadpool trailer. That's another character in the Marvel Pantheon. This one also owned by Fox. Character is going to be played by Ryan Reynolds, and he's famously known as the Merc with the Mouth. He is the assassin who wisecracks all the way through his killings. So we got to see a full trailer for this film, and the problem with what's been released so far is they haven't. What was shown at the Comic-Con has not been, I guess, officially released. Or I guess it was a little bit later on, like after the fact, way after the fact. Earlier in the day, it was just like watching like cell phone footage, just to kind of try to go, what's going on there? What is that? Yeah. So aside from the fact that it was extremely hard to see, I did like the trailer quite a bit. I think that this is a character who you need to play someone like Ryan Reynolds who can be campy and can be kind of weird and be kind of over the top. That's the character to a T. When we've seen this character in previous films, he was in one of the Wolverine Origins characters.
Oh.
He was stoic. He was awful. He was one of the worst characters I've ever seen on screen. Was Ryan Reynolds playing Deadpool in that one?
Was
but I'm much more.
Was he worse than Ryan Reynolds playing Green Lantern?
I would say so, and the reason for it is Deadpool is known as the Merc with the mouth. Spoilers for Wolverine Origins: when you get your final fight with Deadpool, they sew up his mouth, and so it's just a big Frankenstein monster. They took away the one thing that was most memorable about that character. It's
That's
like
right.
if
Remember that? Yeah.
it would be like watching a Batman movie where he's like wearing like a pink tutu the whole time instead of the cape and cowl. Like it's not quite the same. No, I'm excited about it. I don't know that this is necessarily going to be a great movie. It's kind of hard to tell, but it looks like it's going to be a funny movie, and that's enough for me. Especially considering we're talking about the other two films that we talked about here that were superhero related, Age of Apocalypse and Dawn of Justice, look to be much more serious affairs with big stakes. Compared to these two, I think this will be a little bit divergent in tone. It'll be a little bit more fun, a little bit more exciting, and I like that.
It's going to be a different rating too, I imagine. Because
yeah,
it's got to be R. I mean, based on what I saw, they said cunt, they said fuck like 3 times. I mean,
in a trailer?
In the trailer, yeah, totally.
So it must have been a Red Band trailer that they showed.
I didn't see a Red Band thing in
Well,
front
but
of
they
it,
don't. They may not have put the Red Band on it because it wasn't actually published yet. It was just shown to an audience. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
I heard those dirty words. Will, did you hear those dirty words? Or was I tripping?
No. There were a lot of them. Like
Brad be tripping.
They were. I was surprised, and I guess maybe not surprised because this isn't an actual trailer. This was what they played for Comic-Con, so it was a con exclusive trailer. But yeah, I mean there was stuff like who the fuck is that? Just stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
There were probably a good 4 or 5 F-bombs in that trailer.
Yeah.
And that's substantial. It's definitely a Red Band trailer.
For sure. Well, I wish I hadn't seen this trailer, and not because I think it's bad. The trailer does excite me, but I usually resist watching those crappy cell phone trailers because I always regret it.
Oh yeah.
Because I kind of want my first experience to be like visceral on the big screen, high def, But I was like, oh my god, Deadpool! Like I cannot resist the pull of Deadpool.
What is the pull of Deadpool? Please tell me.
He's like.
Am I missing something?
He's like a quippy Spider-Man serial killer with knives and guns and no webs, but
yeah, it's so we've seen this guy 1,000 times in movies, like the kind of the ninja-ish looking G.I. Joe figure, assassin, like full body costume, guns, swords, pouches on top of his pouches. We've seen that guy, and every single time he's always like too cool for school, like super badass. Little stoic, little quiet. That's how these types of characters are. Deadpool is that same dude, but if he had like the nonstop need to constantly entertain like everyone around him, including the fourth wall. So he throws quips and jokes quite a bit. Wow. Some of them work, some of them don't. He's also a character, and I'll be interested in see how much they do this. He's one of the few characters that is kind of allowed to break the fourth wall and kind of like
interesting
and interact with the audience. He's one of those characters who he's a lot of fun. He's built a huge fan base over in terms of in the world of comic books, a relatively short period of time, just because he has a very unique role. There isn't a lot like him. A little bit of him goes a long way, though. A movie will be fine.
Talk about
if I don't want to see like the 5-film rollout for Deadpool.
Well, but yeah, I mean, I'm a total Deadpool. I don't know much going in. I'm totally flat on my knowledge of Deadpool. And Felipe, by the way, is chatting with me as we're talking about Deadpool on the side. And I asked him if there was a good trailer out there yet. He said no. That Ryan Reynolds said that it's probably about 3 weeks out from. And believe me, if anybody knows, Felipe is kind of a super fan. He would know. I'm sure he's one of the guys who reads all the blogs and all the right blogs to get the right information, and he usually fills us in when we get to see him at the movies and on chat and stuff. But he also thinks the movie will be rated a hard R.
Yeah,
That's gotta be.
It's gotta be. And honestly, if it's not rated a hard R, pass. Don't want to watch it. Like Deadpool has to be an R to be a good film.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Hunger Games being rated like PG. You know what I mean? Like that would suck.
It isn't?
Oh wait. Oh wait.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, who knows? I mean, the quippiness wears out its welcome with me very quick. So I hope I fall in love with this character. When the Deadpool movie rolls out. But I am anxious to see the trailer. I think I can wait the 3 weeks until the real trailer gets here.
They're gonna have to. I'm sure what they're doing is they're trying to clean up a few of those F-bombs because there were a lot of them, and I don't think that's what they want.
My guess is they're gonna release, like some of these R movies. They do release 2 trailers. They'll release a PG version, and then they'll release a red band version.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep, I imagine that's what's coming down the pipeline. Speaking of real trailers, though, DC released a real trailer, if Marvel couldn't do it, of Suicide Squad, which I don't know, Jim, you've probably never heard of the Suicide Squad outside of like...
I did see the trailer today, but that's all I know about it.
Yeah, so basically... They're a government-run group of bad guys, and the comic history has varied from year to year, but sometimes they have, like, chips in their heads that can be remotely triggered to make their heads explode if they don't, like, work for the government and do, like, covert ops.
Or if they give away their.
Yeah, so in any event, this one's getting a ton of buzz because we've got Jared Leto as the Joker, and there was an image that came out. We talked about it on the show a couple months ago of him like all tatted up and like the green hair and like the meth mouth and and we're like, no, that's just for fun. That's not actually going to be what he looks like. In the trailer, I didn't really notice all the ha 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 tattoos though.
The face tats, I think, were toned down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't see those on yeah.
No, I didn't recognize those either. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe he has those by the end of the movie, if they're actually a thing. Who knows?
That is an origin story for his tattoos.
That is the movie. Yeah. They basically hold him down and do the tats all themselves on him.
It's totally Batman doing the tats. By the way, he's in that movie. We saw him on top of a car racing around like a street. So Ben Affleck, Batman, is totally in this film. For how long? Who knows? But he's there. We got some Harley Quinn goodness. Will, I wanted to ask you specifically, what did you think of Harley Quinn in this trailer? Are you excited, or does she look a little...
I don't know.
Down?
So I'm more of a Marvel guy than a DC guy, but on the DC side of things, I have a couple of characters who I kind of hang my hat on. One of which is my girl Babs, the Batgirl. She's one of my absolute favorites. But Harley Quinn is very high up there as well. I read her solo title for quite a bit, and I started reading Suicide Squad again when she became a cast member in the most recent run. I don't know, man. I don't know. One of the things that I love so much about Harley Quinn as a character is that she's a lot batshit crazy. And from the trailer, I didn't get to see a whole lot of that. I got to see her kind of vamping it up quite a bit and posing, but I didn't get to see, like, just her going nuts. And maybe it's going to be in the movie. But just as, from a trailer perspective, it was hard for me to be super excited about Harley Quinn because I don't feel like, whether they intentionally or unintentionally or whatever, I don't think they showed us that in the trailer. So.
You're saying they could have toned her character down a little?
I don't know about toned her down. Maybe even toned her up.
I think they need to tone her.
No. I mean, you think that they toned her down for the trailer? Maybe.
I don't know if they're toning her down for the movie or for the trailer. Like, it's possible she's like just a complete force of nature, and because they wanted to, maybe they're saving that for the film. Maybe this trailer tried to showcase a lot of characters in kind of setup mode, so it's very possible we didn't get a chance to see her doing anything just like completely bonkers because of that. But at the same time, it's one of those ones where it's like it's really hard for me to get excited about it because I feel like I still haven't seen Harley Quinn in a trailer.
And I'm sure we'll get more trailerage. We'll see more. But I felt it was a little weak with Harley Quinn. And a lot of people are saying they totally got like creeped out and frightened by Joker. I did not have that reaction at all. And I don't know if I'm weird or what. I mean, he looks cool. I'm interested to see what they do with him. They saved him for like the last 20 seconds of the trailer. But I don't know. Maybe I have Heath Ledger too recently in my memory, and it's fucking with things. Who knows? Sorry for all the F-bombs. Jeez, guys. What the hell?
Well, we're just getting ready to release our Deadpool trailer.
Indeed. But interesting to see this trailer come out of Comic-Con. I do want to see this movie. Suicide Squad is not a title that I have really followed. In fact, I'd really never had much exposure to them until they came onto the Smallville scene a few years ago.
Okay.
Before that show wrapped, they had some limited Suicide Squad stuff going on. And now they're kind of starting to do some of that stuff on Arrow as well. So I'm pumped to see what they do. But this trailer, I don't know, kind of lukewarm for me. But
sounds like a harder core Dirty Dozen or harder core A-Team or
yeah.
I mean, we've seen this thing before where they just get a bunch of crazy ex-cons together to go, pull off a mission or fight crime or whatever. I mean, that sounds like what this is.
Yeah, that's exactly what this is. And one of the things, and I would love to see them do that with the movie, and maybe it is, because it was hard for me to tell from that first cast photo, who's playing what and what all they're doing. But one of the cool things about the comic book, and it is one of the few DC titles that I regularly read right now, they have no problem with killing off a character and replacing them with someone else. These are a bunch of villains, and you have a few that are kind of like your main ones, but every so often you'll get a guy who comes along and he's like, fuck this, I'm going to go rogue, and he'll run off a different way, and the little chip in his head will explode, and they'll just the next issue, just another villain gets pulled onto the team. You get a lot of characters that kind of rotate in and out. So I would be quite okay. In fact, what I'm hoping for is that some of these characters don't make it through to the end of the movie. To me, that's Suicide Squad.
Yeah, for sure. Could be all Game of Thrones style,
Yeah. We'll just bring in Sansa, Jean Grey, and Brienne from Star Wars, and we'll see if they can take out a few of these characters.
A few Ned Starks.
Totally. Oh my gosh, that reminds me. We were getting haircuts the other day. Sorry for the quick side. We were getting haircuts, and they had the World's Strongest Man competition on TV. I was totally watching the Mountain pick up these giant, huge balls and put them up on pillars.
Oh yeah.
I was like, oh, the Mountain. I have missed the Mountain. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
Good stuff. But yeah, so Jim, anything else out of Comic-Con for you?
Nothing for me. I looked, and yeah, it was just, more stuff that I really didn't know much about. I mean, a little bit more. But I think we hit on the big stuff.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Well, how do you guys feel about getting to our movie review of the week?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right, we're going to change things up a little bit.
A lot of it.
Probably won't have as many F-bombs since we're going to talk about a kids movie. Or maybe we will.
Maybe
I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? But here we go. Our review of Minions. All right, so if you have not seen our show before, if you are unfamiliar with our format, basically what we do is we talk a little bit about the movie, spoiler-free. We give some advice on whether we think you should see this film. Then we give ample warning before we go to full-blown spoiler town. Let's see. I'll kick things off in regards to this movie because, like I said earlier, I think I was probably the most excited out of anybody to see a Minions movie. I had no interest in the Minions. They looked so stupid. And then I ended up seeing Despicable Me, I don't know what, 2 years ago, Jim, just before the second one came out?
It had to be, yeah. I think we saw it right before we went to see Despicable Me 2 for the show.
Right.
So,
And I was all set to just totally hate them. They won over my heart. And then saw Despicable Me 2, totally loved them in that. So I'm like, dudes, I am on board for a Minions movie. I even
let's
have
roll.
my
Brad?
minion pal.
Brad totally, like, wholeheartedly green-lighted that movie all by himself.
Yeah, I pretty much did. That was me.
Mhm.
Yeah. So anyway, I was very excited going into this movie, and just to give you a little bit of basic setup here, this movie was written by Brian Lynch. It was directed by Kyle Balda and Pierre Coffin. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the last name correct there, but Kyle is also one of the main voices behind the Minions themselves, and so interesting that he directed this film. Basic setup.
It was directed by a Minion. Nice.
I know, right? Basic setup is that the Minions, as you have probably seen in the trailer, have been around since like the dawn of time, and they've been drifting from one villain to another. You know, they want to serve the big bad of the time, from a T-Rex to
a
caveman to Dracula to whatever else you saw in the trailer, and their adventures bring them to 1968 New York. Where they end up like hearing about this thing called Villain Con, and they're like, we need to serve a big bad. So they, three of them, they send like an envoy. They go down to Villain Con in Orlando, and they end up running into Sandra Bullock, who plays the big bad of this movie, Scarlet Overkill. Why are you laughing, Jim?
I'll tell you later.
No, tell me what.
I can't. Well. All right, you want me to tell you?
Are you laughing at my delivery?
No, I'm laughing at the setup of the movie.
Because it sounds terrible?
No, don't be so self-conscious.
No, I'm talking about the movie, not myself. I know I'm awesome.
No, because it sounds like something else, and I'll get to that in a minute.
Oh, okay. Anyway.
I'm now extremely curious as to what this is.
I am too. Please don't forget.
I won't.
Want to know.
I won't know.
So anyway, blah, blah, blah. They get involved with Scarlet Overkill, and, chaos ensues. They basically go to work for her. Things don't go as planned. And what happens from there, we don't know. The trailer was fun, had some great music. I got to tell you, going into this movie, I was excited. Coming out of this movie, it was a big ball of meh for me. In fact, you could rename the movie Minions.
Minions.
I don't even know how the hell you would say that. Just spell it Mehnions.
What you'll do is you'll butcher it several times, like we just did. Minions. Minions.
Right. Yeah.
You
exactly.
just needed to bring out your inner 7-year-old for this movie. That's all you needed.
Dude, my inner 7-year-old was ready. You got to understand. We did a double feature day, right? And I'm like, Jim, what's the second movie we're gonna watch? And he's like, The Fault in Our Kids with Ass Cancer. And I'm like, what? And he's like, Meet Earl and the Dying Girl. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. Depressing movie. I'm glad we're going to see Minions because it will, like, balance things out, right?
So, can I we knew we were going to do the double feature, but we were trying to figure out showtimes at the same venue that lined up. And ideally, I would have liked to have seen Meet Earl and the Dying Girl first, and then Minions second to kind of bring the mood back up, after what some might say is a depressing movie. I don't know. Not that everybody would, but I just thought that kind of a downer movie should be followed by a lighthearted movie. But I couldn't make the times line up, so we ended up seeing the Minions first in a matinee, followed with about 10 minutes in between the very end of the Minions movie and the start of the Meet Earl and the Dying Girl. So it just didn't work out the way I wanted to. But that didn't affect our reception of the Minions movie, right, Brad?
No, I was just going to say my inner 7-year-old was primed and ready for Minions because he knew he was going to go off into a corner and like cry himself to death in the next movie. So he was like, he had like 8 juice boxes in hand and was like, let's do this. And there were some fun moments. There were some cute things that I enjoyed. But I mean, overall, the plot was fairly plotting. I think I was falling asleep at the big action climax at the end of the film. We talked about how like Penguins of Madagascar we were a little worried, right, that like a little of the Penguins in the Madagascar films was awesome, but a lot of them in that movie was maybe not so great. I was hoping that would not be the case with this movie. I would say it's not as bad. I mean, I enjoyed more of the Minions than I did the Penguins in their own movie. But I feel like you really need a Gru there to kind of like balance them out, give them more purpose. And I think Scarlet Overkill was sort of kind of supposed to be that, but just didn't work for me as well as it may have worked for kids. I don't know. There were kids in our theater who loved it, and I liked it.
Laughing his ass off. Did
Oh,
you
I know. I'm like, dude, how much pot have you been smoking? Because first of all, he smelled of the reefer.
Maybe he had the right idea. Maybe he had the right idea. We should have had some edibles before we saw that movie.
Apparently. Get some pot chocolate from somebody and settle down in. But yeah, so I mean, it kind of worked for me. It kind of didn't. It was all right, maybe C+, B-, somewhere in there. Wow. I would say I'm probably too forgiving. Maybe, I don't know. It's a kids movie, so I'm trying to rein in my expectations. But for me, I think if you're a big fan of the Minions and the Despicable Me movies, you should definitely go check it out. But it could probably just be a rental, you know what I mean, unless you're dying to see it. It's kind of my take. Jim, what about you?
Yeah, so I'll get to that, what I was saying before. And I had this thought actually yesterday when we saw the movie. And between last week's episode and this one, we've talked about two movies, right? One whose story revolves around a happy and fun-loving group of friends that go on an adventurous road trip mission to a faraway place, culminating at a really cool and thrilling convention where they put on a show that brings the house down. While the other displays a group of scantily clad men in underwear and G-strings dancing around and often showing off their mostly naked bodies and prominent beefy asses for the camera. Now, try to guess which two movies we saw and which one that is. Because the first one is Magic Mike XXL, and the second one is Minions.
Oh my God, I saw more Minion butt than like I thought I would ever see.
And man butt too.
Oh my God, yeah. We don't want to spoil too much, but
yeah, I know. I'm just saying that like, if you compare these movies, they're very similar in tone. So
totally. It's like normally you have to go on the internet to Rule 34 something, but not as much here. We got to see the Minion porn right on our screens.
Yeah, more ass in this movie than Magic Mike XXL. I'm just saying that right now.
That should be like the Twitter soundbite.
That should be on the poster for Minions.
And now our listeners are going to be like, well, I'm going to go see the Minions movie. Hold on just a second, listeners. We've got more review to come.
But I'm not lying, am I, Will?
No, you're not. Like there were a lot of like, I just kept going like, oh, that's a Minions butt. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, there's another one. That's weird.
Well, yeah, but we'll get to other stuff.
Yeah, other stuff too. But it was just like it was. You're right. There was more male nudity in this than there was in Magic Mike.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I had my concerns, same as you, Brad, coming into this movie. With the, you mentioned the Penguins thing. I won't recover that. This whole idea of taking sidekick comedy relief characters that are successful in other original movies, and then trying to make a franchise spin-off from them into a feature film of their own. You mentioned that this one wasn't quite as bad as Penguins, and I agree. This was not a terrible movie. I think if I put myself in the mind of a kid. I think when I go into some of these movies that are aimed at kids, I don't take it in at that level. I try to take it in at the adult level. And the movies that do that for me and work for me are fantastic movies. We talked about a couple weeks ago, Inside Out did that in spades, right? Movies like, other Pixar movies like Up did the same thing. How to Train Your Dragon does the same thing to us. This movie did not. This is a kids movie that is strictly a kids movie. I think unless you're high, I don't think. Well, I should say that. I shouldn't say that. I think it's going to appeal mostly to kids. There are some adults that are going to like this too. This movie is based on the whole cuteness factor of the Minions. That's it. That's all it has going for it. And that cuteness factor is great when they're comic relief in another movie, like with Gru and the Despicable Me movie. But when they try to make a 90-minute movie based on that cuteness and throw in a contrived plot over it, it just doesn't work for me personally. There were a few things in this movie that I really liked. Again, there were several. How do I say this without spoilers? Well, I may have to talk about one in spoilers. I'll just say that I love the 60s setting of this movie. I did finally figure out why they did this, and we'll talk about why they did it in spoilers. And I think they did a good job of capturing that whole 60s cultural vibe, kind of that Mad Men kind of thing.
How fitting, right?
In the clothing.
They had John Hamm,
yeah,
so they had to.
Yeah, in the clothing and especially the music, I did dig the selection of 60s pop tunes that are in the soundtrack. It gets bonus points from me for that. One of the beefs I had with the movie was the totally lackluster villain that they had in this movie. I thought Scarlet Overkill was really, really boring. And she had a sidekick too, her husband, I guess, who was that the John Hamm character?
Yeah, that was John Hamm.
Yeah. For me, I'm just comfortable saying that this is a decent kids movie. You'll get a solid 90 minutes of entertainment for kids out of this, whether you bring your kids to the kids to the theater, or wait for it on DVD or streaming. I would say if you have younger kids and you want to go out just for fun family time at the movies, this is a perfect movie to do that with. It's not super offensive, although we'll talk about some things in spoilers. Otherwise, I'd say if you're looking for more out of your animated movies, I'd say skip this one in the movies, maybe wait for it on streaming. We did not see this in 3D. We thought we were, but we didn't. And I can't speak on the 3D nature of this movie, other than to say there was what I thought was kind of a neat little post-credit scene, so just stay for the end, especially if you're watching it in 3D. Will, I don't know if you saw it in 3D or not.
I just did the 2D screening.
Yeah. When we saw the post-credit scene in 2D, we're like, oh shit! Now I wish I had my 3D glasses, because I could tell they were doing some things specifically in that, to maximize the use of 3D, and we missed out on that. So one of the things we did is we tried to sneak around to another auditorium to see if we could catch the 3D ending or credits, but the timing wasn't right, so we failed. But yeah, I'll just say, if you go into this movie for kids' sake, I would say definitely it's fine, go see it. Otherwise, I'd say you don't have to rush out and see it.
How about you, Will? What are your thoughts?
Well, let's not bury the lead. I did not like this movie. So let's talk a bit about why. I really liked the first Despicable Me movie. The Minions were a very, very small part of it. That movie was about Gru and his relationship with the kids. There was a lot of heart. There was a human element. There was a family bond. That's what that story was about. Despicable Me 2 came out, and I liked it a lot less because the family element was pulled away so that we could see more of the Minions. And so I was a little nervous coming into this one because it felt like the formula has been trending less human element, more Minions in each movie. Now they've got a whole freaking movie to themselves. What's it going to be like? Is there going to be that bond? Is there going to be that heart? Is there going to be that human element? Or is it just going to be cutesy characters being cutesy on screen for 90 minutes? And that's exactly what this was. You mentioned before that there are human characters in this movie. The problem is that they're not integral to the story. Even the ones that kind of are, your Scarlet Overkill, the Sandra Bullock character, and her boyfriend / husband, I forget which, they were very, very much non-starters for me. I didn't care about their characters. I wasn't interested in what they were doing. When they were doing something that directly impacted the Minions, I didn't care. Like, I wasn't. It didn't make me root for the Minions even more. Because the villain was so despicable, or maybe she had that heart of gold, or whatever it was. I couldn't give less of a shit about Scarlet Overkill, and that goes for a lot of the characters in this movie. we've talked. You mentioned before some of the different movies that that are also kids movies, and I would say that I draw kind of a distinction between kind of a family movie and a kids movie. Like Inside Out, How to Train Your Dragon. These are films that like the entire family can enjoy, whether you're a kid, whether you're an adult, anywhere in between. These are films for everyone. Minions is very much a kids movie only. This is the type of film where there's really nothing of value in terms of like storyline or plot or development or anything like that. What it is it's probably a kid might enjoy this, not because it's a good film. I'm not going to. It's hard for me to use the excuse like kids will enjoy this as something that makes it a good film, because it's not. It's like dangling like keys in front of a baby's face. That's not, that's not high quality entertainment. It's just flashy and sparkly, and it's right there. So kids might enjoy this, but does that make it a good film? No. The characters learn absolutely nothing. They don't grow. There's no development. The main characters are the exact same at the beginning of the film as they are at the end, and that is a huge plot and character development no-no for me. Again, compared to something like Inside Out, where we got to see a lot of complexity and a lot of nuance at different levels that anyone in the family could enjoy. There were maybe a couple of things I enjoyed in this film. The animation was fine. The music was, the period piece music was fine. There were a couple of times where they would do a little side gag or a little side joke that didn't pertain to the Minions themselves, and some of those worked for me. There's one, and I'll just mention what the character's about, and then we'll talk maybe more about it in spoilers or not. I don't know. But there's a quick little aside with this character named Professor Flux. And that was like the biggest laugh in the movie.
Yeah,
for
that
me.
was fun.
It was really cool. It was really interesting. Problem is it's kind of, one of the things that we criticize, like, Seth MacFarlane or Ted about is like these little like side gags that don't really pertain to the main story kind of being the thing that kind of props it up. And for me, that was kind of this film. Like the only times it really worked was when it went off into kind of a weird little side joke before pulling back. So if you've got a kid and like they've been kind of bugging you about seeing a movie lately, and you just need something to plop them down in front of to distract them for an hour and a half, take them to go see Minions. But if you're looking for a good movie, go see Inside Out again. Go see just about anything else. Wait till a couple months from now we're going to have Hotel Transylvania 2, which I anticipate being a superior movie to this one. This was a total pass for me.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think we're all kind of along those same lines. Did I end up liking it better than you guys did?
I'm probably close to you, Brad. I think it's... I can't say I liked it, but I can see, I think, where a certain audience might like this movie. I mean, this movie killed in the first weekend. It made, like, more than Despicable Me. It made about the same as Despicable Me and Despicable Me 2 combined in its opening weekend.
And less an indicator of quality and more an indicator of, hey guys, this is how you market a movie. No, this is how you market a movie. Like, I complained earlier about the what Warner Brothers was doing with Dawn of Justice in the first trailer. Like, Warner Brothers, go see how they marketed the Minions movie and learn something about how to market some of your superhero movies, because this is a masterclass in marketing. And
I hope they don't. I hope they don't do it that way, because every time we go to the movies in the last 4 months, there was, those ads for the snack bar, and Cinemark or whatever had a Minion in it. It was kind of crazy how much they spent. I can't wait till they release the budget number for this.
I saw it. It's like that was one of the things that was fairly interesting about this. This was a film that was, God, and I didn't write it down, but it was something like $78 million. Like, it was a very low budget. Like, where a lot of these films push well over 100. This was in like the 70s, I believe, and so profitable right away.
Right, and the production budget, of course, doesn't include the marketing budget.
No.
Right,
Yeah,
right. That's separate.
No. Like the marketing budget on this one was crazy. Although a lot of it was, the marketing budget I think was something along the lines of like 593 to 600 million. So it cost 6 times as much to market this film as it did to make it.
So as bad as much as Will, you hated it, and we kind of didn't like it all that much. There's a good chance we're going to see more. I hope we see another Despicable Me movie. And we're going to get into some trailers.
So here's the thing. I think it's time to move into spoilers because I want to talk about that note. Are we good with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's move
we
to
just
spoilers.
move?
I don't think
let's
there's
get
a lot
right
left
in.
to talk on that. Yeah.
All right. Spoilers are officially fair game. Blah, 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 blah. Listen at your own peril. Blah, 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 blah. If you want to remain a virgin. Blah, 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 blah. Here we go. Wow. So I really stood up and took notice of this movie when, at the very end, Gru shows up. That's when I was like, holy fuck, that's what I wish would have happened, like, halfway through this movie.
Yeah.
It would have been the Minions and Gru, like, taking down Scarlet Overkill and cementing how they came to be with Gru. The fact that he shows up in the last 5 minutes is both a cop-out that I hated and a stroke of brilliance that I loved. And it's really weird to be in that middle ground for me. I think it would have been a much, much stronger movie if they had brought him in earlier. Probably would have been a lot harder to hold that in the vest, so to speak. But I think this opens up a window for like Despicable Me movies that happen before 1 and 2. In fact, they can even have my idea if they want. The next prequel movie should be called Despicable Pre. And be all about young Gru and the Minions, like getting their first bad guy hideout and learning about each other and starting to go out and do stuff.
Yeah. That's what this movie should have been.
Totally,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's my feeling anyway. I don't know about you guys, but
If you're gonna save the Gru reveal for the last few minutes, as they did, and I think there is a stroke of brilliance to that, then you have to have a rest of your film that supports that. Like the rest of the film has to be good, has to be solid, has to have those same stakes and that same heart. Since they didn't do it, I think if you had brought in Gru earlier, you would have had some of those elements. Yeah, damned if you do, damned if you don't on this one. And
right.
It just, I feel like, I don't know, this is probably a bad thing to say, but it feels like they almost coasted more on the idea of like this is going to be successful without trying to do the things that would make it successful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they look cute, they talk cute, we'll just throw them on the screen, we'll put a plot, we'll put a basic good guy, bad guy plot to it, and a few zany, slapsticky action beats, and call it a movie. And here we go, we got a hit on our hands.
I mean, the idea of like VillainCon as a thing is really freaking cool. Like a convention of like super dastardly villains, characters like doing heists and mad scientists and people, time travelers, and all sorts of crazy crap like that. That's really cool. And that there were a couple little side things that we got to see during VillainCon. The thing with Professor Flux that I'd mentioned before were quite interesting. You could have probably cut out a lot of the shit at the end of the movie and made more of the film revolve around like stuff like hijinks and like intrigue or whatever happening around VillainCon, and I think it would have been a much more interesting use of the setting and a much more a chance for them to let that really cool plot beat kind of breathe and exist. It felt like it was a little squandered the way it was.
Yeah, one of the coolest jokes in the movie happened at VillainCon when there was a time traveler dude, and he made like clones of everybody, and then they ended up killing one of them, but it was the wrong one because it was the original dude. So the rest of them all just like disappeared. I thought that was really cool.
It was the best part of the movie for me.
Yeah, it was really clever. I loved it.
Yeah.
I don't know that I honestly have that much to say, even though we're in spoiler section.
Just the other part that I really liked with it. There was a cute scene with some, let's just say, men of size.
Yeah.
And they're dancing in their underwear. I thought that was kind of cute. Interesting to have 3 mostly naked guys in their underwear dancing. And these weren't the Minions either, right? These were like dudes in the movie.
Yeah.
And they were slapping each other's butts.
Yep, and then they had the sumo dude showing his ass all over the place, and that's why I'm saying this thing had more naked guy ass in it than Magic Mike, and I'm not even really stretching the truth that much.
No, you're not. You're not. For once, it's not hyperbole. It's true.
And that's not even including like the minion butts or the minions, like the one who like would just walk around naked except for like two little starfish or leaves or whatever on his chest. So
yeah, I know. Yeah. There's even a poster for the minions that shows them with their backs to the audience,
right,
with their clothes off up on a thing, and their butts are hanging out for the world to see. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Is kind of weird marketing. I don't understand.
Like, does that make you want to go see the movie? Just like I get them.
No.
They're not for me. I don't find them as endearing as a lot of people.
No.
But I get that people do. I get that they're cute, they're funny, they're quirky, they've got funny voices, whatever. But why their butts? And I mean, obviously, it's looking over the obvious. Like, it's low humor, just like tee butts are funny. And that brings me back around to one of the problems with this movie. Like, it doesn't necessarily go for the low joke, but it goes for kind of like the obvious or the quick joke in a lot of places without a lot of complexity. Not that you need like a super like layered movie, but I mean, I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. I feel like kids are smarter than we give them credit for, and it sometimes frustrates me that we spoon feed them a lot of like just kind of shitty entertainment and say this is what you're smart enough to recognize, so enjoy this. So it frustrates me that this film is out there and it made as much money as it did, and that there's going to be 7 more of these fucking things.
This is Spy for the preteen set. That's what this is. I mean, you're right. Kids are smarter than we give them credit for, but we got to remember there's different age levels of kids too, and they get certain things, and they don't always need a smart movie either. I mean, we went to see Spy. I wouldn't call that a smart movie, but I would call it funny for us.
Right.
And I'm sure a lot of the stuff in here that we saw as a quick joke or the easy joke may have been really funny for kids. I don't know.
No.
Yeah. So I don't know. So does it make me a perv for lusting after like hot big boy butt in a cartoon butt while I'm watching a kids movie during a matinee? Is that
it is, the patented Adrian Charlie blush moment of the episode.
I've got to say, like, should we post this episode? Because I don't want Jim to end up on a list or anything.
Yeah, let's get this right. I mean, not like I was touching myself or anything.
Oh my god. This conversation.
I was just like, oh my god, that's strange in this movie. Did you also notice there was a lot in the credits at the end? I
love your super quick segue there, by the way.
Yeah. Let's get
you didn't go into the story of how you got.
I have a feeling I know what your answer is already. You guys are gonna drop a dime on me.
No. Okay, I will answer your question very, very head on. I mean, there have been animated characters that I have thought were attractive before. Not necessarily in cartoon movies, although.
Gaston.
Well, no, I thought Gaston was
a blowhard.
Yeah. But like Grand Theft Auto 5. The Michael character, I think, is hot. In fact, I like to get him down to his underwear and have him like run around, sailing on boats and stuff, because it's hot to look at him from different angles. You know what I mean? So I think there can totally be an attraction. I think in Despicable Me too, right? Didn't we have El Nacho or something?
Yeah.
The hairy chest. Like, what was that character again? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is why, I mean, back then we were like, oh my god, like bears must be writing these movies, you know what I mean? And now I'm like, oh, okay, we have 3 like big chub guys who are dancing around in their underwear. Like, I think that even more, you know what I mean? So no, I don't think that's a bad thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a difference. You'd say, I think the way you worded it was as lusting after. I know you don't actually mean lusting after. Just like there's a difference between like being able to. Yeah,
strongly admiring.
Strongly, yeah. You're not playing pocket hockey, is what you're saying.
No.
No. But no, I get you. Like there are certainly animation styles that that appeal to our sensibilities. Think about it kind of from a straight male perspective. Like you've got the Disney princesses, who I think you could very easily say like Belle is hot, Ariel is hot. So I think if that's fair, then certainly like when there are chubby representations or bearish representations, it's only fair the other way around as well.
Sure. And the other thing, I wanted to look into the production of this movie. A lot of French names in the credits. I'm kind of thinking this was a French production company that puts these together, or at least this movie together. Just a little. It kind of struck me as how many French names were in the thing, and it may be. And the movie did have even, it had a. I mean, I know part of it was set in Britain, but it did have a strong European flair too. So I'm just curious as to that. So I'll probably do some research offline, but that really doesn't have any bearing on how I enjoyed the movie. It's just something that I kind of noticed.
Sure.
Do we have much else to say, gentlemen?
Yeah, I feel like I don't. Like I know, and
No,
we have these every.
Don't feel like you have to.
Yeah, we have these every so often. Like we have movies where I think it was like Jurassic World. By the time we got to the end of that one, we had run long and we still had a lot more to say. Same with Inside Out. We get to this one, it's just like, we said what we had to say, and that's fine. That's fine. Not much more to say. Nope, nothing more.
All right. Then let's just move on to some plugs and wrap this mother up. Jim, what's your plug this week?
My plug is I caught up on another Godzilla movie I want to tell you guys about. Well, Brad, you watched it with me, so you know all about it. So a few weeks ago, I bought some DVDs from a online company, and I can't remember which, that sells a lot of, let's just say, bootleg or foreign movie versions. And I got I'm up to a movie called The Return of Godzilla. It's also known as Godzilla 1985. And what this movie is after we had all those silly movies, Son of Godzilla, Monster Island, blah, 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 Toho basically took a year off, 10 years off from making Godzilla movies. And in 1985, they put out this Return of Godzilla, which basically kind of reverts all the way back to the very first. It picks up right after the very first movie in 1954. And there were several references in this movie that's set in 1984 about the 30 years that have gone by, with no reference to any appearances by Godzilla. So this kind of gets back to the more serious tone of the original Godzilla movies, and Godzilla being a force of nature, kind of a watchdog, environmental, anti-nuclear conflict force of nature and watchdog for the world. And 1984 was kind of after, right as we were done with the Cold War, but there were still kind of weird feelings between us and Russia coming out of that. And this movie reflected that. I really enjoyed this movie. It's it's called The Return of Godzilla, or Godzilla 1985. Oh, and by the way, they also took this movie. The reason it has two names is because The Return of Godzilla is the original Japanese version, but Godzilla 1985 is they took that movie just like they did the original movie and put a bunch of post-production scenes in it featuring, guess who? Raymond Burr. And kind of made it for an American audience.
He was looking really hot in that movie, by the way.
Yeah, he's kind of like he turned into kind of like Burl Ives' big brother in that movie.
He was like total polar bear daddy.
Yeah, he was. And I like I said, I really enjoyed this movie. So I'm still making my way through the Godzilla movies, about halfway through now.
Awesome sauce. It was a fun movie for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to catching up, but eventually, Jim, we're not going to have any new movies to watch until new ones come out in theaters.
That's all right. We got time, and there's quite a few movies. Remember, I think there's a couple of Mothra movies that spun off.
Mothra,
and I think there's Gamera movies we can watch. So
there we go.
There's stuff to watch.
All right. Well, what have you got this week?
So guys, I saw a movie. Wanted to tell you guys a bit about it. It's on Netflix. and it's called "What Happened, Miss Simone." So this is a documentary about Nina Simone, who is a fantastic musician and also a celebrated civil rights activist. I have a bit of a weakness in my, I guess, my film skill set. Of the different film types, music documentaries are ones that I'm usually not drawn to. They're not my cup of tea. Now, not that they're bad or that they don't work for me. It's just that my interests usually don't intersect with them very much. This one, man, this one is so good. The parts where it focuses on Nina Simone as she's coming up as a musician, as she's kind of first getting her first few breaks, so she's kind of dealing with what it's like to be a black musician in a time where it was not quite cool to be one. That was all really, really interesting. And then once you start getting into her activism, what she did with the March at Selma and so on and so forth. Really, really, really solid documentary. One that there's been a few good documentaries out this year, and this one definitely is one of the highlights for me. It's called "What Happened, Miss Simone," and it's a Netflix documentary, so it is out now. You can watch it right now, streaming on your television without having to hunt too far for it. Jim, I know you're a music guy. Have you seen this one yet?
I have not. It's on my list, as well as and I've heard really good things about this one. I don't know a lot about Nina Simone, but I'm looking forward to learning a lot more about her and through this movie. Also want to catch up with that documentary, another music documentary or music icon documentary called Amy, which is out in theaters right now. So, yeah, I mean, I love music documentaries, so yeah, those two are definitely on my list, and I'm sure I'll see them before the end of the year.
Awesome.
Yep.
Very good. Well, for me this week, you'll notice if you're watching our video feed that there is hardly any color in my video feed. It's because I cried it all out at Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl. We went to see this right after we saw Minions, and definitely one of those films that gets you right in the feels. Will has lost all his joy as well. But you know what? There was some fun in this movie too. It is sad. It is bittersweet. But
Funny.
It's definitely got some fun. Definitely channeling some 500 Days of Summer, which I totally want to go back and rewatch again. I need to fix my camera because this just looks like really freaking weird. So yeah.
Yeah, I'll second that. Will, I think you may have plugged this one before too. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you definitely did.
But yeah, I mean, we finally caught up with it. Glad we did. It's definitely worth seeing if you're out there. If you haven't heard of this movie, it's got a really, really weird title. The title is not doing it any favors at the box office, I'm sure. But if you can get past the title, go see the movie. It's a little bit of quirk in it, a little bit of there's a little bit of smart writing in it. The story isn't all that original, but I think the characterizations and the writing kind of make up for that. And there's also some style in this movie. There's some
absolutely
interesting things they do, and it's kind of a movie a little bit about. It's not just about Me and Earl and the Dying Girl. It's also about movies.
It's totally
a lot of great movie references in here, especially if you're a Werner Herzog fan.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, for sure. It's definitely worth checking out. I don't know how much longer it's going to be in theaters, but this one is a big recommend for me while it's still there. Otherwise, you got to wait 4 months until it's available on VOD or rental. But we just have had so many movies lately. It's one of those this is our first chance to get to it.
And if you can, rush and go see this film. Like
it's definitely worth it.
It's it's in my top 5. Like it's like which is a big compliment for me because it bumped a couple things out. One of my favorite films of the year. We have a written review for it up on our site. So if you like written reviews, go to moviebearspodcast.com and you can see my more in-depth thoughts on this. But yeah, if you haven't seen it yet and you've been holding out, go see this movie. It is so freaking good.
Indeed.
It's on a lot of people's top of the year list so far. Our friends over at the Green Screen of Death podcast, Adrian and Bill, I think both had it in their top 5 so far for this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's getting attention and deservedly so.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right. Well, this has been a monster, almost 2-hour show for us, and all we did was talk about Comic-Con and Minions. It's not even like we reviewed 2 blockbuster films, but a lot of good conversation. As always, those of you hanging out with us live, we enjoyed your comments, and you
Thank
keep
you,
us
thank
company
you.
as we did the show. Yes, absolutely. Those of you listening on digital tape delay, we love you guys too. Feel free to shoot us an email. We're still accepting shirtless pics at brad@moviebearspodcast.com. So I'll just put that out there.
When are we closing the submissions for those?
I don't think
Probably
we
ever.
are.
Probably
We're
ever.
gonna keep it extended. Yeah, it makes sense.
I think so. Yeah, definitely. It's our listener spotlight corner. You know what I mean? So anyway, not sure what we're doing next week. We'll have to figure that out. Ant-Man. What is it? Bug Dude or something? I don't know.
Yeah. Fly Guy.
Some movie no one's ever heard of from some company called like Marv C or Devil or something. I don't know. But yeah. Anyway, join us next week for Ant-Man. We'll be there. I'm sure you'll be too. See y'all next time. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.